Hi, hello, hey, and welcome to my tent, a place to hear life experiences, different opinions, a range of journeys, and a viewpoint different than our own. A place to challenge our own thoughts, a space to learn a little bit, and I promise some fun along the way. I believe we're better when we let a range of people into our tents, so welcome to mine. Did you know that our health is encompassed by way more than just food and fitness? Did you know I'm a health coach? What is a health coach? I can tell you. I work with individuals and groups to look at all aspects of life that help make us truly well. I have structured programs to help you create realistic, challenging but achievable, and long-term transformations that span long past our time working together. I help you take a multifaceted approach to your health, ranging from food, fitness, relationships, work-life balance, financial health, gratitude and joy, creativity, career, and more. If you are looking to make a health transformation, visit my website in the show notes or email me, sarah@sarahjohnstonwellness.com. Cheers to good health. Hello.
How are we going to do this and not just...
I know. I was like, how do I even introduce this? Because I've known you for like 30 years.
Literally the longest ever.
Pretty much. Yeah. My first friend in life, Katie Cingari. And now we are, in fact, somewhat adults with children of our own. I mean, adult is a nice word, I think.
And I was like, do I identify as an adult?
Some days I do, some days I don't. It just depends. But first off, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I'm so happy that you're on and you're willing to come and chat with everyone about who you are and what you're doing in this world, which is so fun.
Of course. I mean, I'm honored. It's been fun to watch your journey and just hear you on all the things you're up to. So
we're doing a lot over here. I mean, I also just quit my corporate job.
Awesome.
Without another corporate job.
Great.
We were ready. It was mentally and emotionally draining and it was time. So we'll see what comes of it. But yeah, you'll probably hear more about that as the weeks go on. But I will be doing all the side things and hanging out with Ronan and
great.
Trying not to lose my mind with Miss Rachel on for the 500th time that day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're there. But this is not an episode about me. I feel like I do enough of that. I want to talk about you. So Miss Katie Cingari, thank you for coming on. Like I said, I have actually known Katie since we were like, 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Something like that. We had just moved in to the house across the street. Yes, we were in Stamford, Connecticut. And I think my mom or your mom like forced one of us over, being like, there's a girl across the street that's your age.
No.
And then we became friends. We danced together. I did end up moving out of that town when I was about 10, but, thankful for the world of social media, we've been able to keep in touch. So Katie, do you want to give a little hello, maybe just a brief background, like where you live and who you are? That would be awesome.
Of course. Yes, I was actually my parents still live in that house. So I was there last night. It's such a
I was going to ask that. I was going to be like, I remember that house so well too. I could walk through that whole house.
Same with you. And then I babysat the kids that moved into your house and it was so bizarre. I'm like, this is Sarah Day's house. Anyway. So yeah, I didn't go far. I'm still in Stamford, Connecticut. I said that I would never grow up here in like my angsty years. I was like, I'm leaving. I'm back. I am back. And the choice that I made that I feel fully aligned with now is that this place has a lot to offer. And we made the choice to raise our children around both of our families. Both of our families live in Stamford. So feel really grounded in that. Even though I look on Zillow, I'm like, we should move. It's a lot. Better somewhere else. But anyway, here we are. A little bit about me. What an interesting question, Sarah.
I know. I feel like I always ask this. I can also target it. So we did the where you grew up. Maybe what do you do for a living? What are you up to in terms of the corporate world and where did that passion maybe come from and how is that working out for you today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am in, we call it people and culture, but it's known on the street as human resources. And I fell into it, honestly, quite by accident. I went to school to be a teacher. I was like, that was my focus. I really felt in my college years that they force you to choose a career, you know, like
Wild. It's
I
wild.
didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, come on. So that just seemed, I think I got a flyer. I'm like, this seems, um, and I got to the end, barely crawled my way through student teaching. And I was like, this is really hard. I felt really responsible for the students that I was supporting. And it was really hard just with testing and things like that. So got a part-time job and still thought I was going to be a teacher. Been here for almost 12 years. And yeah, I'm like, is my job a corporate job? I'm like, I think it is, but I don't and again, this is my only experience since graduating college, but I don't experience it as a corporate, like what I've heard from others as like a corporate world. I
Yeah.
don't know if we're grounded in yoga, mostly female led. I don't know what it is, but anyway, that's where I'm
Yeah.
at.
Well, I love that. And it's awesome. And I feel like it's a good and very fitting position with you. So I assume you're remote because they're Vancouver.
Vancouver, my
All
favorite,
the
like one of my favorite places.
move there. No,
Right? I know.
I feel like your families would actually kill you if you're like, actually, we're moving to Vancouver, the furthest point away from any of you people. But I love that. And I love that you're back in Stanford too. It really is a great place for people that don't know. It's actually pretty close to New York City. So you're right on the border, pretty close to Manhattan. So you're right outside that hustling, bustling city, but it is a very family oriented. There's good schools. And you mentioned that both of your families are there. So
Yeah.
if you can walk us through Becky
Mm.
and how you know Becky and how all of that kind of came to fruition because you're now back. And I believe you've known her for quite some time. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So I'm always like, here's the story. So what's wild, and you having been from Stanford, and for everyone that's listening, that I think is interesting, y'all can tell me if it is or not. Our families have actually known each other for generations.
Oh,
So
wow.
my grandparents owned grocery stores in Stanford. Her grandparents owned grocery stores in Stanford. They were competitors.
Oh,
Like,
no. This
yeah,
is like a Romeo and Juliet.
the drama. Could you imagine the drama? So, but yeah, our families they've known each other for generations. They were actually direct competitors. And yeah, someone joked once, like, oh, Becky, you're a traitor because you're dating Cingari was the drama. But all of that was in the past. We met in high school. So met when I was a sophomore. I'm like, like, can I be like really funny or like
Yeah.
not so funny? Because like
Oh,
I can say whatever I want. Can I say
oh,
whatever
yeah.
I want?
Yeah. You can swear, you can say whatever you want. There's pretty much nothing that gets cut out of these. So,
I'm wearing a sweater. Should I take off the sweater? Is that too okay? Um, I met her when I was 15, and what I was going to say, I'm like, how deep are we going? I didn't know what gay people were, Sarah. I went to
mm,
Catholic school.
yeah.
Okay. Girl didn't know I was like, what's going on here? So I met Becky. I'm like, you're gay. I'm like, I support you, but I don't know what's going on here. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So she was like, I am gay. This is me. And she was out. Okay. And you're like, what is gay?
Yeah, that's correct. And let the record show she's 3 years older than me. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So she was a senior when I was a freshman. And yeah, so she was out and I was like, this is really interesting. And I wish so badly that she still had this note. I wrote her a note in code and it was like, I think I am what you are. Like so dramatic, so dramatic. And essentially it was just like, what is going on here? So anyway, so that's how we met. Started dating when I was 15. She was 18. Very much in secret. It's like kind of funny because I'm actually at her parents' house right now
Yeah.
and I'm like, do we talk about this? Um, we were we're very secret for a while. Her family was very supportive. My family was very not supportive, but we've come
Mm.
around. And yeah, what else do you want to know?
No, that's great. So you did have an age gap, meaning she must have gone off to college. Did you just continue dating? Was there any like breaks in the relationship or was it like 15, we're good to go?
So she stayed local. She stayed local. And it's kind of funny to think back now. I joked that Becky always like follows me around. Like it's kind of fun. So she stayed home from school, like didn't go away. And then I went away to college and lo and behold, she came too.
She's like, I'm here.
Following me around.
It was that letter, Katie. I am what you are. She's like, took that really literally. And like,
I am what you are, what I am. And I'm following you for the rest of my life. So yeah.
She did.
So,
Okay, great. And how long did y'all date for? So you also mentioned if you're like willing and want to
yeah.
talk about any of this, like your family took some time to come around. So you're working through that. You're just dating. Like how long were you dating before you really said, okay, this is something serious. Like we got to figure out this because she is someone that's extremely important in my life. Like let's work to get on the same page here because this is what I want. Yeah.
Yeah. So I told my parents, I think when I was 16, and didn't speak about it for a very long time. And not until I moved back home after college, there just came a time when I think it was when I moved back home. I don't know if it was when I was planning to move out, but it was right after college. And my mom just randomly came in and was like, we want to have Becky over for dinner. And I was like,
What?
hello? Okay. So that's just how it started. It was like, we need to get to know her. Because I mean, at that point it had been 7 years that we had been together. So it was kind of like, this isn't changing. We didn't talk about it, but like they knew. I'd be like, I'm going out. Bye. I'm like,
Yeah.
weird. So yeah, that was the turning point.
Yeah. Well, that is so good. And I feel like, in a way, do you feel like where we are? I'd actually love your opinion on this. Like where we are now as a society, do we feel like we're getting more accepting? Like, do you feel like it is getting easier, or do you feel like in a lot of ways it's not?
I feel that it's we're at the very opposite ends of the spectrum. Like
Mm.
you're like we're and like somewhere in between too. I also don't want to take away from people's experiences there, but I see like people having coming out parties. Like what in the wow, that's amazing. But I also see just like some other places in the country where I could only imagine what it would be like to be a child of yeah, in some
Like
of those
really
states.
not accepting, like exile type.
Exile type legislation being passed. It's just, yeah. So that wasn't something because it wasn't even really talked about back then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we kind of are, but when I'm like, I've known you for 30 years, I'm like, Jesus. Um, but yeah, okay, here we
Yeah.
are. So y'all were together for quite some time before you decided. And like, what point were you like, okay, this is like marriage material? Was it? And I always am also interested, and I hope this is not like an offensive way to question this, but like, who asks?
Mm,
Because like in a traditional, like I
yeah.
have a very standard, it's like Duke asks me. Like, how does that conversation come to play?
That's a really great okay. And what I'll say is you can ask me anything. Nothing offends me, honestly. If you were to if Becky was here, what she would tell you is that if it were up to me, I would have never asked the question.
Oh,
Like, what are we? I was really afraid of having a wedding and like having all the focus on me. So I would have just like skirted along. Whereas Becky had a clear vision where she was going to be married by X date or X year and have this first kid by X. Like she had it all mapped out. So she asked me because I was not going to do it.
well, hey, I feel like we all have our strengths.
It's fine.
It's all good. I mean, I
And I,
basically forced Duke, so it's
but then she
fine.
didn't ask back. I had to ask back.
Oh,
What is that? So she asked me and I said, yeah. I'm like, what do you think? Like, you're you gonna say no now? So she'd come home from work and start pointing at her finger. I'm like, is that
what am I supposed to do?
yep. So I had to go like I had to go whip up some stuff. But
And then okay, well, there we go. I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways I am Becky
mm,
because I basically was like, Duke, you're either going to shit or get off the pot.
mm,
And it also got to the point where my mother was about to kill him
mm,
because she's like, listen up, buddy. What
mm,
are you doing? And we were about to go home for Christmas. She's like, if you don't come home with a ring, like I'm going to kill him with a fire poker. She's like, I'm going to
right.
murder him. And I watch
Yeah.
enough television, I can get away with it. I was like, oh my God. But it all works out as it should. So you did have a big, beautiful wedding and it looked gorgeous. I've only seen photos, but it did look like quite the lovely celebration. And I hope like you're like Duke though, where he's like, can people wear blindfolds when they watch us dance? I'm like,
I had
no.
a cue with the DJ when I was like, I'm done. We're done here. 15 seconds and we're off.
Oh
I
my God. That is, well, there you go. That's still, it's everyone has their own things for their weddings. And Duke's like, if they play Happy by Pharrell, I'm walking out. Fine. He's like really passionately hates that song. So, you do your thing. But you guys have been married for how long now?
it'll be 10 years next year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you got married young,
Looking back, yes.
24,
Yeah, I was, yep,
24 and 27, 24 and 27.
I had, yeah. I'm like, that sounds right. I think I got married. I turned 25, but yes, it was young. But to what Becky will tell you is that we had been together for so long.
True.
She was like, so, and again, she had a timeline, so we had to get moving.
How much are you really going to find out about a person that you've been with for like a gazillion years at that point? Yeah. Did you guys live together before you got married?
Yep, sure did.
Yeah. And that's how you really find out.
If you survive that, then listen, let's fill out the tax forms because that's the hardest part.
Yeah. And a lot of ways, if you're committed to someone and you have been for so long, it really is just paperwork. And some people really like the party. I like the party part. And I'm also the youngest and I, the girl, and Pop in particular was like, I must have this wedding. It's like, you do you, bud. I know. Good man. It was a hard one. I know Katie knew Pop and Pop would sing to Katie.
He did. Every time I walked in, always a song that had my name in it. It was so cute.
It was so lovely. And then when did you start the conversation? Well, I know you mentioned Becky had a timeline, so she also had kids built into this timeline. Were you always someone that envisioned yourself having kids and having a family, or was that something that was more of a conversation with Becky having a pretty clear picture of it? And what your side of the coin, what did that look like?
It's like making me actually rethink the way that you're asking it. Cause I'm like, was it because I was a woman where I just was like, I'm having what, I don't know, but I always saw children in my future, even before. Yeah. And even after meeting Becky, that was always, it never wasn't part of my mindset, I guess is what I'd say.
Yeah. I know it's a big conversation for a lot of couples, especially if you're with someone and they're like adamantly against kids and you're adamantly for kids.
Yeah.
That can be really tough.
Totally. And what I will offer is Becky was adamantly against getting pregnant. So her timeline was interesting because.
Okay. That was going to be my next question. So you also know you're going to need to enlist the help of some specialists.
Yeah.
And IVF most likely is the case. I guess you can do IUI too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now that I know that I can ask you anything, like where did you get the sperm from?
You can ask me anything. So we got it online, which like, honestly, it was such a, I don't know, an interesting experience. Because we'd known each other so it was kind of like dating. It's like you look at profiles and like you talk about it and assess. And so
it's a big decision though, because that will, hoping that all goes well and it's successful, that is genetically the part of your child. So it must have been bizarre.
It was. And I don't think I had a full idea of what it actually meant until we had the children, and they were physically here, which you just I couldn't put my mind around it. I'm like, yes, we need this. Like, I also, truthfully, I think what it was is I wanted it to be as quote normal as possible. So I didn't think too much about it. I'm like, well, we need this to do the thing. So I'm not going to overanalyze and worry about it too much. But now we're here, I think about it all the time. So,
well, your children are in front of you every day. And there's an episode with my friend Amy who was going down the path of single motherhood by choice. And she did the same thing where she's like, I would have friends over and we would drink wine and swipe through sperm profiles. And you have to pick someone that you feel aligned with, but you can't really attach too much to it because you you pick it and they ship it, right? They like ship it to you and then you have to do all this stuff with it. And then with the IVF process, because I know that there's options, there's like reciprocal IVF, there's IVF where you're using your eggs and combining it.
Yep.
What was that process like once you vetted your sperm donor?
Yeah. We ordered it and it went to the fertility clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So went to the fertility clinic and we did start by doing IUI. I did all of the testing to that you go through when you go to a fertility clinic, which also was kind of interesting. Like being in my position, what do I want to say? My position, just like going there, I'm like, can we just not make this really simple? But
Yeah,
for whatever reason, like for the reasons that they are, I went through all the tests, like all the testing, and all my tests were quote normal. Like there shouldn't be any expected issues. And I mean, with fertility, not a lot of things can be explained. But anyway, I went through all the tests and they were like, should be good to go. Like you're young, like all the things, like feeling optimistic, and went through IUI and did 6 rounds and they all failed.
I give you I made it too. And I was like, we're done. I hate this. Oh,
I don't, I so interesting. Everyone's experiences are just so different. It was really hard on Becky, I think too, just like she was very much like, don't do it anymore. And I was like, nope, I was very, I don't know.
yeah.
Six,
And so that's 6. Yes. And a lot of times I know that that's the limit on like insurance stuff. Like they'll let you have 6 or whatever covered. So some people do it based on whatever they'll allot the coverage for and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And it's frustrating too. And it's interesting you say that because I think it is a very still similar situation where Duke felt helpless a lot because my body was physically the one that was having to try this and do this and get the test done. And he was kind of just over there like, what did he call it one day? He's like, are you going to go get your implants? I'm like, yes, double D's. Oh, sure am, bud.
Yes.
But okay, so 6 failed. And then you started to explore the conversation of IVF and going down that route.
Yeah, we met with the doctor, and what he shared with us at the time was actually after 6, your chances actually start to go down. So that was the conversation of trying to look at like a different path and it being IVF. And our insurance didn't cover any of it, Sarah. So Sarah, it still hurts, but you know what? I love them. It's great.
Which is also just such a effed up thing. Like,
wait, I'm like, I really could say what I'm thinking, but
you can. That's the fun part.
This is like, can someone just like slide some over and we just, you know what I mean? Like, do we even have to go through all of this? Like,
well,
for free?
Technically like kits, I think.
There's kits. Yeah, there are. There are kits. And there's also, this is like some underground thing that I just have heard through the grapevine. There are like free apps where you can get it for free.
Yeah, but then you're like, what exactly is getting put into?
Listen, we didn't do it. These are the things you learn. I probably still would go this way. I think I'm like, well, let's just do it, but I'm really not.
I know. And in the depths of it, you're like, oh, has like your bank accounts just draining and draining and draining. You're like, maybe I should go to like Canal Street in Manhattan. I know.
Oh, I was like in Stanford. I was like, good job, Sarah. Canal Street.
I do remember. I really don't remember many. Pond, Still Meadow School was on that other road. Still Meadow Road, maybe West Hill.
Stillwater.
There we go. Yeah. I mean, then you ended up. So you went down the path of IVF, and then did you do the retrieval?
Yes.
With you? Okay. And then is it the same donor that you did for everything?
Well, actually, no. It was a different donor. The IUI donor was different. The doctor was like, it could just be that didn't work with your body. So if you're going to change, consider changing it. So we did. More so because the vials were low and we wanted to ensure that they would be full siblings. So
Got it. Yep, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
they're hundo because they're now how old? 4, 5,
Four
and
and
4.
two.
Oh my
4 and 2.
God.
Almost 5 and 3.
That is insane. I mean, that's Chris's kids are 6 and 4. I'm like, also Chris has kids, which is just funny because
It is.
Katie also knows my brother who is just
I do.
insane,
I do.
insane.
I do.
And now he's like wearing high pants and yelling at the dog and like getting upset if his lawn's not watered and like, oh, Chris.
Isn't that
Oh,
funny?
it is. It is. And it is really a joy and a gem. And I do look at Ronan sometimes too. And I'm like eternally grateful that we were able to do it and it worked for us. I don't think it negates how difficult it was. And I don't know what your journey was like once you did the retrieval and the embryos and whatnot. If you just did like back-to-back transfers, if you want to talk about sort of the process there, you definitely can.
Yeah. I did the egg retrieval, and that was such an odd experience. I mean, you get like pumped up. I felt like you get like, I mean, you get pumped up of all the things, produce the eggs. It went really well. We ended up with, I think it was 9 embryos. Like after all the testing and everything, it was like 9 came through the process. We did 1 fresh transfer then, and that failed, and then waited actually a little bit of time because it was like November. I did the egg retrieval and the lab was like closed for the holiday. Like they close it in December to like clean and like do all these things. So I had to like actually skip a month when I had been doing like IUI, IV, like back to
Which is
back.
kind of nice in a way. You're like, oh, maybe my body should be.
Because that happened. We went away. I did like kind of reset. And then the next IVF cycle, frozen transfer worked, and it was Gemma.
Gemma girl.
Gemma girl.
She looks exactly like you.
I know, it's really weird.
She's your clone, which is so funny. And I'd love to also hear about, because you mentioned like your family has now come around, but I'm sure society is still not there yet. It's 2 moms as the family with their children. So what is it like living in the world,
Yeah.
whether it be positive or some of the negatives? Like, how are you approaching that? And how are you talking about that either now, or we'll talk about that with the kids? Because that needs to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah. One part of the process, actually, when you're going through like fertility treatment as an LGBTQ couple at the fertility clinic we were at, you meet with a social worker and they talk to you through this. Becky's kind. She's lovely, kind. She's also a Taurus. Like, so she also doesn't want people to tell her what to do. So that meeting didn't go well. I was the only one just listening and nodding my head. And essentially what they recommended is that like starting in the womb crib, you just normalize their story of how they got here. Okay. We've tried that now, like now that they're here, and the story isn't really going well. It's like you were made in Gemma thinks like she thinks what she was made in a dish. So she tells people she was made in a dish. Like it's true. So it's true. And I'm like, you and Rory were actually made on the same day. And she's like,
you're twins, but not twins.
You're twins, but we put Rory back in the freezer for 2 days.
Rory was just chilling for a while. And then like, it is really hard because I was even talking to my niece, Olivia. She's 6 and she loves looking at photos.
Yeah.
And then she saw a picture of me very pregnant and she's like, well, how did he get in there? And I'm like not the way that you got in. And then she's like, well, how did he get out? And I'm like, I had a C-section. Like, it is kind of hard to explain it to kids.
Yeah.
And like, even because it's not all the same anymore. And like long gone are the days of mom, dad, 2 kids, white picket fence.
Right.
And how do you explain that? I mean, I even in some sense, the way I felt it growing up, where I had 2 sets of everything. I had mom and stepdad. And even now to this day, I don't refer to Pop as my stepdad. So people will be like, I thought he's dead, but I'm actually talking about my biological dad. Like I would hope that it's becoming more common that families come in a gazillion different variations. but it is hard, I think, for these young kids to
Yeah,
like conceptualize it.
totally. Totally. Yeah. But they don't have the understanding of it being like right or wrong or like
Yeah.
having any connotation to it. It's just it is. Um yeah, it's really interesting. It's funny because today there was a ice cream social at my daughter and our kids' school, and another one of Gemma's friends come over, and she looks at us, she goes, "You have two moms, Gemma." And Gemma's like, "Yep, I do." Gemma goes, "Not even a dad." And this little girl, her name's Molly, she goes, "Yeah, because you can only have two parents, you can't have three." And we're like, so in her mind, it was like totally acceptable to have two moms, but it was like more than two, I'm going to start to question. So it's just interesting how,
That is funny.
yeah, mhm,
Because in her mind, she's like, yeah, correct. There's the two.
correct.
One,
Two.
two.
Yep. So, we don't give kids enough credit.
Yeah.
They, they get it.
Well, in a way, then you are doing your job because your children's story is that
Yep.
is,
Right.
and
Right.
that's awesome. Have you experienced any like more difficult things, either with people being your relationship or your family plans or how you've done things? Have you experienced like assholes, to be quite honest?
I really am lucky to say not really. Not really. I think if anything, it's more innocent and just people not realizing things, like, especially after, I think it was like Gemma being born, they're like, "Who's the dad?" And we're like, "She doesn't have a dad." It's just new
Or
language.
like the who wears the pants type shit. You're like,
Yeah.
we're both moms.
Yeah. Someone
What are
once joked, they're like, "Are you the dad to me?" And I'm like, "No, not the dad." I don't know. That's just, yeah, I'm like,
you're
no.
like, no, I am
When
the
we
mom.
play Bluey, Gemma, I'm always the dad. Yes. But no, not every day.
But that I think is just like kids. Like, what is it? Olivia and Madison always make Chris like the Olaf, the snowman.
Oh, yes, exactly. Like like that makes sense to them.
Yeah.
So
And like or what is Jess? Jess is like the donkey always. And she's like, why am I the donkey?
oh yeah. I was what's his name? Pete from Mickey Minnie. Pete. Gemma's like, "Mommy's Pete." I'm like, why? I don't wear overalls. Like, come on.
Well, they're kind of cool.
Fine.
It kind of works, but I mean, I think it's important that you're showing them that like this is normal. However you want to do things is your
Yeah.
normal. Like however you want to structure that. I know people that aren't married that have children. They're like, we don't really feel like getting married. We don't care about that.
Yeah.
We love
Yeah.
each other. We want to be together. We'll get married. We'll have our kid. I know families that are blended. I know
Right.
tons of different stories and types
Totally.
of people. So you do you.
We do us, and we do, and our daughter is a Scorpio.
Hmm.
So I have also seen her when there was a time I was at her school where someone said something like, "I thought because Becky also works at their school, so they know her." So they're
Mm.
like, "I thought your mom was the teacher." And Gemma has a dissertation about how she has two moms, and it's very strong. So I am not worried about her at all. She is so clear. And if anyone even starts to question it, she'll let them know.
She's shutting it down. What
Yep.
sign is Rory?
He's a Sagittarius.
Okay.
He was supposed to be a Scorpio. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
I can't have two.
I don't know if I can. So he was a week late and just made it. He's the first day of being a Sagittarius. So
Okay, so he knows. He knew to stay put. So
he knew.
he follows directions.
He does. My sweet little boy.
Oh, Ronan's a Gemmy, a little Gemini. And he is strongly opinionated. Yeah. It's a very interesting thing because I think he got a lot of my personality, but got a lot of Duke's intelligence, which is a little terrifying because he weaponizes it. I'm like, you, sir. He's like, he knows how to get his way. And oh my good God. We're in for it. I mean, we're done. Are you guys done, you think, with the kiddos, or you think you're going to go? Because you have you have embryos.
We do. We do have more, and it's such an odd mental space to be in, like knowing that, we're very grateful that we have them. And I think energetically and like all the things, like I feel like we can give our kids, that to me feels whole and done. And I don't know if my mind would change in 3 years. So how do I make that we don't know how to make that decision right now.
Yeah. So just keep them on ice.
Keep them on ice and tell them we maybe defrosted a brother or sister later down the road. I don't know.
Or yeah, I know I know people that they were going through the IVF process. They ended up with, they tried for like 2 years, got 4 genetically normal embryos. In the month of waiting between transfer and that, they got pregnant naturally.
Wow.
Then they decided, okay, 8 months after the kid was born, they were like, let's gear up to transfer pregnant. So they have all these embryos and they're like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
They're just keeping them frozen.
Yeah.
We didn't end up having any. Ronan was the second embryo. He was kind of like an average B student. You know how they grade them? The first one was like the stellar rock star that we ended up losing. And they were like, this one's fine. I was like, great.
This one's fine. He's perfect. That is what this is.
Turns out he like got right in there and held on, but we don't have any more. So I won't go through it again just because for us, you know, financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, I also didn't like being pregnant. So I don't really have interest in doing it again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I've experienced pregnancy as like the means to the end.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is just a necessary part of the process. I was going to say, I don't know anyone that would choose it. But then again, there's my mother-in-law who's like, have another kid. Being pregnant was my favorite thing. But I also like Rory, my sweet love, he didn't sleep. He still doesn't sleep through the night. Like there are also even like the I don't know. So
yeah,
all signs are pointing to no right now. So
yeah, and that's valid. That's totally fine. Any people that want 10, you go for it. I went down a rabbit hole on Instagram of this family that has 7 children.
Love rabbit holes. Yeah.
And she's 33. They're both 33 and they have 7 children. She's been pregnant for like 7 years.
No, ma'am.
And I think you just have to really like it. But
I mean, great. Yeah. That's so nice.
For you. That's nice for you. That's not for us.
I will give you a like on Instagram. So.
Yeah. Maybe a comment, maybe a heart. Look at that engagement score. That's fantastic. So it seems like though you both have lots of good family around. You have lots of support from family. You said you're at Becky's parents right now. You're just chilling, doing work there.
Yes. Our parents alternate days picking the kids up from school. Friday is Becky's parents' day. And because I was at their school for the ice cream little social thing, I just came here and worked and we'll work till
you'll see the kitties.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it was so good. I feel like this was like a hard not to totally just dish and catch up. So I thank you for sharing all of your goodies and your stories. Katie is just wonderful and she's a great human. And I am glad that we've been able to keep in touch for 30 years. I told my mom, she was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to listen to that episode. She's like, I don't really listen to any of them, but I'll listen to that one. It's like sweet.
Brutal honesty is just impeccable.
She says how it is.
I do.
She's not gotten any filter since you've last seen her. So, she's excited, but thank you for hopping on. It was so good to see you. And I hope you have a good weekend.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Sarah. Good to see you.
You too. Thank you so much. This was so fun. I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in to the Welcome to My 10 podcast. I hope you had as much fun listening as I do recording. I am so happy to have you here and see you next episode.